Hello everybody, we are Team Jazz. I'm Sarah.
I'm Jessica.
I'm Sammy.
And we are here today to discuss Bertrand Russell with you. Bertrand Russell, for those of you who don't know, which I'm going to assume is a few, was a really neat guy from the UK. Over the course of his career, he played many roles, wore different hats, not literally. He was a philosopher, a logician, mathematician, historian, a writer, a social critic, and a political activist. The neatest thing about him was that for his time, he was definitely a forward thinker whose main focus was logic and using that to understand the world and different concepts like philosophy, mathematics, and social policy.
Russell was born on May 18, 1872 in the UK. He came from a very, very liberal family. Unfortunately, his parents passed away on him in a very young age, leaving him to be raised with his grandfather. His name was Earl Russell. He served 2 years as Prime Minister, and his grandmother, which was very, very open-minded towards women, and she had very strong beliefs on women's education.
That's nifty. In addition to obviously a very open-minded, very liberal upbringing, Russell went on further to get a formal education at Trinity College in Cambridge in the field of mathematics. In the time that he was there, he was appointed to being a lecturer in 1910, and during that time he started to work and discuss with a number of different Labour MPs leading up to World War I. Through his work with the MPs, he started to develop fairly strong feelings and beliefs of pacifism and started lecturing and handing out pamphlets based on these ideas. As a result, he was charged under the Defence of the Realm Act in 1914 and forced to leave his position at Cambridge. He initially thought he was going to be imprisoned, but somehow people came together and sold off all of his possessions and his books from his apartment to pay his bail, and as a result, he didn't have to go to jail. He did, however, have to go to jail 6 months later, when regardless of his initial punishment, he kept lecturing and opposed the US joining the UK in World War I, and as a result, yeah, he went to jail for 6 months.
He just never gave up.
I know.
Just kept going.
It's like he believed in something. Oh my goodness.
Good for him.
Yeah. So in addition to all of his jail time, he also did a lot of really neat things and dealt with a lot of different fields in his career. He worked in epistemology, ethics, logic, mathematics, metaphysics, and a variety of different studies of philosophy, such as language, logic, and mathematics.
Russell published over 47 books and articles, most notably Principia Mathematica, a 3-volume series on symbolic logic and truth in mathematics. It was co-written with his former professor, Alfred Whitehead. These ones were published between 1910 to 1913. His book, The History of Western Philosophy, published in 1945, detailed the history of philosophy, covering the time from Socrates to the 19th century to the 20th century, and they contributed to him winning the Nobel Prize in 1950. Wow. In addition to the Nobel Prize, Russell won the De Morgan Medal in 1932 for his work in outstanding mathematics. In 1963, he was the first recipient of the literary award called the Jerusalem Prize for the Freedom of the Individual and Society.
That's neat. He won a lot of neat awards.
He did. Must be so proud.
Such an intelligent man.
Sure.
See, speaking of his books and his different contributions, you read about the Principia Mathematica. Why was it so significant?
Well, Russell's main significance was to make the use of language, to combine logic and mathematics together, to be understood universally.
That just seems like something that would happen normally. I guess maybe he did influence us.
He did a lot if you think about it. Logic and mathematics combines a lot in our daily lives.
Absolutely.
And in a lot of careers too. However, Russell also had very strong beliefs that logic became more mathematical and mathematics became more logical over the years.
No, I guess with that in mind, moving from that, that's probably where he came up with these lectures. So around 1914, he started this lecture series called Our Knowledge of the External World. And what the main ideas was that philosophical inquiry should not just be based on personal experience. So much in the way that the idealists had, where everything was sort of intuited or just an innate knowledge, something felt. He started using the idea of realism and sort of actual facts and things that you could measure, like senses and all of that. This really was influenced by logical atomism. Now what that is it borrows from the field of physics. It's a theory that all matter is made up in the universe by tiny finite particles that cannot be broken down into anything smaller. So what he did with this application and applying it to philosophy was to take the idea of atomism and apply it to propositions. So you have these ideas or these statements that could be philosophical and sort of esoteric, and he took them and basically found a way to bring them down to their basic roots, to be able to ask a question honestly using logic and sense and data, to be able to accurately justify whether a statement was true or false. So that's pretty neat, which I guess really led into analytic philosophy. Hey Sammy,
Yes.
you studied analytic philosophy.
I did a little bit, yes.
What's it all about?
Well, analytic philosophy seems to be a philosophy based on logic and linguistics. It seems to be very different than all the other potential philosophies that were out there. It seems to have been that back then, most of the philosophers were studying idealism philosophy, which is a philosophy based on we know something exists because we feel we feel it exists or things of that sort. Whereas Russell's philosophy of analytic philosophy is more of we know that exists because we see and we feel and we touch, and through using our senses, we logically come up with the answer that yes, that does exist.
So you can measure it and use science as opposed to intuition and ideas, therefore it's more concrete.
Exactly.
Huh.
A very different way of viewing the world than what everyone else seems to have been doing at that time.
Interesting.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, analytic philosophy nowadays is huge. I mean, we use it today, which is to view the world in a more logical way.
Makes sense. Can you imagine a world where logic didn't exist? It makes me
No.
uncomfortable.
I mean, like think about it when you use, let's say, critical thinking, which is what came out of analytic philosophy. I mean, I'm not sure that our world would survive without.
It wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
It'd be, in my opinion, different,
Yeah.
and not sure in a good way.
Exactly.
Not sure.
I mean, had we used logical thinking, we perhaps wouldn't have set this video up directly beside a door in a hallway where students are coming and going.
There you
That-
go.
Logically,
Well,
we find a quiet corner of the library.
However, we did not do that. You're welcome. So, moving on. Anything else that,
I think that pretty much
Analytical
sums up.
philosophy?
I think that pretty much sums up the basics of it.
yeah, I got a pretty good idea of it. Yeah,
Amazing.
that's neat. So yeah, as I mentioned, Russell was also, his pacifism in the early bits, just to tell you a little bit about the rest of his life, after all of these fantastically intelligent and wonderful contributions that he made. He also just tried to make the world a little bit of a better place. So one way that he did that was by being president of the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. So in the 50s and 60s, with the Cold War happening, and all of the different nuclear weapons that were being stored by different countries, he ended up writing letters directly to the US president and Russian premiers to be able to get everyone to disband and destroy their nuclear weapons so that the world would be a better, safer place.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's not nothing.
So
Yeah.
what did Russell not do?
I don't know, he had kids, he was married 4 times, like he traveled to China and met the communists there, he traveled to Russia, he did a lot of really
He
neat
had it
things.
all.
Skydiving, I don't think he got to skydive, but I don't know.
He definitely lived a pretty full life.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. So yeah, and at the end of it, he died though, February 2nd, 1970, at the age of 97. So it was a very full life.
97.
Absolutely.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Like-
So yeah.
So I guess just to wrap it all up, basically, the creation of analytic philosophy was pretty much a way to move from ideals of philosophy to a new type of philosophy of rationalism.
Mhm.
I mean, analytic philosophy seems to be the founding, or the father, if you will, of critical thinking, which we now seem to use a lot nowadays.
Yeah, especially in our field.
Absolutely. Behavioral analysts probably would use critical thinking several times each and every day when it comes to creating plannings and programmings and all those wonderful things that we can provide for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think without that, we would have no job.
That'd be terrible.
It would be pretty rough, and we would go to school for pretty much no reason.
So in the end, thank you so much, Bertrand Russell,
Thank you very much for your contributions.
Thank you for everything.
and thank you all for watching.